You can start the session, Ritwik. Maybe we'll wait for 5 more minutes.
We'll have to wait for 5 more minutes. Usually
Okay,
people come in a bit late also.
cool. No problem. Okay.
Hello guys. So while we wait for everyone else to join, I am just making you guys and giving you the guys to speak so that we can continue this session in a more interactive way. So at any time during the session, if you guys have any questions, just unmute yourself and start speaking. In that way, the session will be quite interactive and it's fun when it's more interactive. And how will we start the session is that I'll go around the table and ask you guys three questions. So first is a bit 2 minutes introduction about yourself, what you are doing, where are you working, if you are working, and if you are studying, where are you studying. And the second thing would be uh, um, a bit about your experience. Where are you working? In which field? And what technologies are you working? And third would be, what is your expectation about this session? So the order we will go is the order I can see you guys on the screen. First is Arundhati, second Chirag, Naveen, Raja Unni, Saurav, Susmita, and uh, finally Vishwanath. Cool. So let's start with you, Arundhati. You can unmute yourself and speak.
Uh, yes, I'm Arundhati Paul, and currently I'm working at Capgemini India, posted in Mumbai location. Um, I have total 1 year, 8 months experience so far,
Mhm.
and mostly working on application management. So the technologies I have worked are like C Sharp .NET and Oracle DB, like
Okay.
PLSQL. Uh, and from this program, I am expecting to gain more knowledge in the software development field. I am from electrical background, so I think it will be good as a learning experience, and I can get more into development roles later.
Cool. Thank you, Arundhati.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Next, we have Chirag.
Hello everyone. Hello Ritwik. I'm Chirag Govil. I'm working in the ADA NX in India as a front-end software developer.
Mhm.
For my expectations from this are to know the more front-end technologies, that is React.js in this course, and also the back-end technology, so I can make myself as a full-stack developer and get more opportunities for my future.
Cool. Thank you,
Thank
Chirag.
you. Thank you, Ritwik.
Naveen.
Yeah, hi all. My name is Naveen Gupta. Currently, I'm working in TCS as a production support engineer for Apple. And currently, I'm working on Genesis. This is a contact center technology. And the expectation from this course is like I'm in support. I'm a support engineer, so I want to switch in development. That's why I opted for this and want to learn more about development. That's all.
Thank you, Naveen. Raja Unni.
Hello, my name is Rajmuni, and I've been working as a software engineer in HCL Technologies for 1 year and 8 months. Then I left the job due to some personal problems and other things. Then I had a change in career. So now I'm planning to come back to IT field again. So I was looking for a program just like this to freshen up all my skills and maybe get ready for the job market.
Thank you. Saurabh. Saurabh Singh. Can you unmute yourself? Are you able to unmute yourself? Okay, we'll move to next who is Susmita. Saurabh, in the meantime, just check your mic if it is working fine, because if you are not able to speak up, then if you have any doubt, it will be tough for you to post the doubt as a question. So, yeah, Susmita.
Hi, myself Sushmita. I'm presently working in Aruba Networks. My main intention to join this course is like presently I'm into smoke testing, which doesn't involve any automation or any coding type of thing. Like my expectations from this course is to like this will help me. I'm thinking that this will help me to switch into developer role and learn more about coding. So
Cool. Thank you, Susmita. Next, we have Vishwanath. Vishwanath 1, as it shows in Zoom. Can you unmute yourself? Okay. Moving to next, Virendra. Hi, Virendra. Are you there? Cool. I think guys who were not able to unmute yourself, I would advise you to guys to check your mic. And then why? Because in this session, it's best to have this interactive, and it will help you guys if you can speak up. And in case if there is any questions, just unmute and speak. Why? Because I will be starting to share my screen, and when I am sharing my screen, at that time I will be not able to moderate and check the chats. So cool, guys. So introduction about me. So I am Ritwik, and I will be taking this session for you. And I have overall around 13 years of experience, and currently I'm working as a software manager, software engineering manager at LinkedIn. And before LinkedIn, uh, mostly I worked for Indian startups, and in that my primary experience has been working for InMobi for around 6.5 years, where I have grown, joined InMobi during their initial phase. And if you guys know, InMobi is one of India's first unicorn startups. So I joined them during uh, the initial phase. So I have seen a startup grow from a very less number of people to a big company. That's my experience. And initially, when I started with another startup called as Cooliza, and I have done my BTech in computer science from VIT Vellore. So that's my experience. And today, what we are going to concentrate on is the requirement gathering and analysis. Correct. So, what is the meaning of requirement gathering and analysis, right? So, one thing which I could feel in with introduction of everyone in this class is that you are in your early stages of career, 2 to 3 years of experience. That's what it is, what I see, right? So, as an early developer, right, one thing which comes to you, like you are directly involved in either coding or testing, right? And uh, so that's what, like, from my experience also, it's not just for you guys, for anyone who comes into industry, they think that okay, coding is the most important part of a software development, and that's the primary part. That's what everyone's thought it. But my belief, I also had the same belief 12 years ago. But now, being in the industry for this long, one thing which comes, which is very much clear, is that software development itself is a big process, and coding and code is just one of the process, and code itself is just one of the byproducts. So finally, the main goal of a software development is all about making your customers happy, right? So whoever is your customer, they should use your product. That's the main goal of it. And when I say code is just one of the byproduct, what are the some of the other byproducts? Other byproducts would be the documents which you write, the documents which you refer while you are coding. For example, when you do a coding, you might refer to a Jira as where you get your tasks from, or you would refer a PRD. PRD is a product requirement document, or perhaps you will refer to a system level design or a low level design to do the coding, right? So those are some of other products of the software development process. Correct. And till the time a software comes for coding, right? I would say in terms of its process, almost 70 to 80% of the work is already pre-done till the time it comes to coding. And uh, uh, what will be the aim of this session? To uh, go a bit in details about the pre-work which has happened to that coding, to that software development before it comes to us. Cool. And for of course, when we talk about a software can be of many type, right? It could be a IoT device, or a phone, or a, phone OS, or a appliance OS. Lot of those things could be there, right? But for the purpose of this course, what we are focusing is a web application. And what is a web application? It's simple, right? A web application is a any application where there is a server component, a client component, and then there is a communication in between them, right? So for example, whatever we use on your apps, right, on your phone, those are our application of a server client technology. The application which you are using on your phone, like for example Uber, for Flipkart, or for example WhatsApp, right? All of these things has a client, which is the app which you are using on your phone, and there is a server part of it sitting somewhere in the cloud or in some data center, right? So for our purpose, we will focus on such apps, not going into uh, other softwares which I mentioned earlier. Cool. So first thing when it comes to the mind is the client, right? So an example of a client would be an Android app, an iOS app, or something like a web browser, correct? So from a requirement gathering perspective, the first step of all the requirement gathering is to know which client your customers would be using, right? For example, if you see, right, you have an app-based strategy and a browser-based strategy, but both of them have their own benefits and drawbacks over each other, correct? So for that matter, let's take the example of a Mintra, where I am telling that, okay, it's uh, what do you guys think when you think about Mintra? What would be a better client for a Mintra, a browser or a app, and why do you think so? You guys can unmute yourself and while to speak. Anyone?
App would be a better option
Okay, and why?
because it's very handy to open the app quickly. Otherwise, if it's a web browser, if it's a web application, we need to first move to the web browser and then we have to check for the Myntra.com and go for further.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Any other suggestions? Any other point of view?
It's Raj here. I would suggest a browser version would be more applicable for Myntra because it's a fashion-related product. and it involves a display of the proper display of the images, and all handheld devices would not be supportive enough to show a detailed image display or a proper display of the product. So people tend to get confused, or the customer, I meant, tends to get a wrong impression, apply for order for it, and when they get it, they get a different result. So the customer satisfaction at that time tends to go down. So I would recommend a browser base for Myntra mainly.
Okay, cool. Any more views, point of view? Anyone?
Yeah, this is Jayasagar here, and I think app would be better because it's more accessible and it can be used anytime, anywhere. So it's more comfortable.
Okay, cool. So, correct. So now what? Let me come. Let me tell you guys a story. So, how many of you know that Myntra got acquired by Flipkart, and in which year? So yeah, Myntra got acquired by Flipkart, I think in the year 2015 or 16, correct? Exactly during that time, 2015, I remember, Myntra went from a browser plus app based to, they took a decision that they will become app only in 2016 or 15 sort of. And that decision backfired a lot. So, of course, one thing which you guys are telling from an accessibility perspective, yes, it's true. If you have a Myntra app in your phone and say you are traveling somewhere, you can open it up and then you can browse through and do some impulsive shopping over there. That's a benefit which Myntra gets from an app. But the other person, which one person also mentioned about browser, if you see in this page, when I am opening a Myntra, so think about this, right? For if you are doing a shopping of say grocery like big basket, when you buy a tomato or say you are buying a potato or some vegetables, right? You do a search for tomato, you there wouldn't be wide varieties of tomato, right? Perhaps there would be one or two. One would be local tomato, hybrid tomato, or perhaps organic tomato. That's the max you can have, right? And then you wouldn't go ahead and choose each tomato yourself by seeing the shape and size, right? But on the other hand, right, if you think about when you're doing a fashion shopping, right, each t-shirt is a different t-shirt, right? So what you will you have multiple thousands and thousands of choices and you need to choose between them, right? So one big benefit which Myntra as a browser is giving you is the real estate, right? In this screen you can see I can see 15 t-shirts at a time, correct? But in an app perhaps I can always see more, not more than 3 or 4, right? So and one very biggest benefit of a browser is something like this. Now, what I am going and seeing, okay, say I like this one, I will just open this in a new browser, open this in a new browser. Okay, I like this one, I open this in a new browser. I like this one, I open this in a new browser. I just press command and then click on it, and then they are opened in a new browser. Now, what I can go ahead and though, okay, I like this, I can add to cart directly from here, right? This sort of functionality is missing in app. Of course, when you do an app, you click one, you go to that, and then you again come back. You get my point, right? So, uh, of course, there is a plus point of app, which is impulsive buying. But apart from that, browser had its own very big benefits for an app like Myntra. So, and strategy, if you are developing an fashion category app, perhaps is to have both of them, and browser makes a good sense for you. So that's one extreme. The other extreme is, say if you are, can you guys think of an app where sorry, can you guys think of an application where you would only want to have an app based. A browser based won't make sense. And why? Anyone?
Uber, Zomato, Swiggy.
Mhm. And why?
I would for
Because here the user will just have to order, and it will be like very easier to do from an app,
Okay.
more
What is the
convenient.
yeah? So convenience is one angle. What more?
Mm. Um,
Can anyone think of some other angle?
Yeah, so it's with respect to contacting the person. Like, say, for Swiggy, they have to travel and they can call them anytime. And even for all the credentials are already saved. But that's also possible in a computer. But it's more comfortable when you get a direct call from them. So it is more convenient.
Mhm. Actually, if you are getting a direct call, right, that's convenience, but that's not a very good product design. A best product design would be you order and without even someone calling you, it arrives at your home, right?
Correct, correct.
So there is one very interesting aspect which is there, which you guys can
here
think of.
there is GPS tracking also from app.
Yeah, correct. So location, right? So of course, browsers also give you location, but from a app perspective, you get more precise location, right? If you are booking a cab, but getting the exact precise location is most important, right? So, for example, Uber, right? There is no web applications. Sorry, there is no browser-based Uber app, right? They don't need it fully. Why? Because of course, if you are, no one will carry a laptop to book a Uber from if they are going for shopping. First thing first, and second is the location part of it, right? So yeah, so in general, right, so these are some of the decisions which you need to make when you think of a use case design. Let me give you guys another statement. So the statement is that, say, for example, I am a entrepreneur where I am thinking of starting a startup which will help our Indian farmers to solve their supply chain problem. And the product which I'm trying to develop is an iOS based app. Okay, so this is the problem which I'm trying to solve. What is a big, I would say, big problem in my statement and in my thinking?
It's an iOS app.
So, what's the problem in there?
iOS apps, it will be very costly for them to purchase.
Right. Yeah. So exactly. So if I am thinking of building up a iOS app for Indian farmers, perhaps I will get 0.1% of my user base who will have a iPhone and then use my case, right? So best in that case, perhaps what would be a better opportunity? What will be a better thing for me to do? Would it be a browser or an Android? We have left with two options now, right?
and Android,
And why? Why Android?
because farmers won't be having access to desktops or laptops. So probably there will be already Android devices are coming in cheaper cost up from starting from 3,000, 4,000 rupees. So possible, it's a big possibility that most of the farmers will be having an Android device, at
Yeah,
least
correct.
one.
Yeah, exactly. So best case, I can think of an Android, and even if I have to go, perhaps an SMS based application, correct? Something like that, right? But if the my problem statement, for example, was if I am working for a US market for a niche uh, fashion, for something like an fashion of the types of Louis Vuitton or any of those. So what should be my first target in that case? In that case,
Obviously, app.
yeah, an iOS app, right? So some of these are very important factors when you think about a client. So this is what you do from a client perspective. Now think the next step, right? So what you have thought about is client. Now what next step is when you think about your server, correct? So what are some of the thoughts you will want to have as a server, right? So from a server technology perspective, of course, there is a big debate about having your public cloud or versus your own data center, right? So first thing first, at least with last 10 years, when there is a public cloud, no startup will have their own data center, right? Because setting up a data center is a costly event. But within public cloud also, we have so many options now, right? So based upon your startup, right, and based upon which geography are you in. So if you are inside China, you might perhaps go with Ali Cloud, right? They will have the most better deal for you. But if you are outside of China, you have Azure, you have AWS, all of these things, right? And when you have when to use Azure versus AWS, right? There will be affinity towards everyone, right? Sort of developers and the developer market are you in? Are you going to use data sciences to it where you will need to use TensorFlow or any of the Google related part, right? So these are some of the decisions you need to take from a server perspective. Finally, about what is the communication mode which the client and the server will have. Of course, everyone knows about HTTP, right? HTTP is hypertext transfer protocol, which all the browsers are using, right? But knowing about other technologies like WebSockets can help you in your initial phase itself to design the product. Why? So anyone knows what is a WebSocket? Can you tell to the rest of the class? WebSockets? There was one UI guy here, right? Someone who is working on UI.
Yeah, I'm working on UI.
So are you aware of WebSockets?
I'm not sure, completely sure about it, but it's a protocol that is there's a set of rules or a communication agreement between the server and the client so that they can communicate and understand each other.
Okay, so let me tell you what is a WebSocket, right? So uh, everyone knows about HTTP, right? And API. API is what? Application Programming Interface. Where what will happen, right? There will be one public address of your server. And what the client will tell, okay, give me this data. That's how you ask. Or client will tell, okay, put this data, delete this data, something like this. But if you see in this case, it's a what it is more like the client will initiate and then the server can respond back, right? Server can never initiate a call in all of these cases, right? You will have to ask the client and then it will give you. And usually the data transfers are one way, right? You ask and then you in the return you get the data, correct? What is WebSocket? It allows a two-way communication. It opens like a phone call or like the Zoom call which we are having, right? I am talking, you are listening, you are talking, I am listening. So that's what is WebSockets. And where do we see WebSockets? You see WebSockets in chat applications, for that example, right? When you are using a WhatsApp sort of a thing, that's a WebSocket. Why? If you see, when you are typing, other guys can even see that you are typing, right? And then when you send a message, the message goes back there, and then he can send a message, it comes to you, right? One more example of WebSockets would be something like when you, for example, are booking an Uber, and once your Uber booking is done, right, after that there is a screen which comes where it shows your current location and a map, and then the current location of the cab which has been assigned to you and how they are coming towards you, right? You see that slowly and slowly they are coming towards you. That's another example of a WebSockets where the data is two-way sort of. The server is constantly pulling, giving you that location, and the client map API maps software here is rendering that. And why is it important to at least know this? WebSocket is a newer concept. And why is it important? Once you know that such technology exists, then only you can think about building such features, right? If you don't even know, then you will never be able to build that feature, right? So yeah, that's what is WebSockets. What is consistency and why it is so important, right? So consistency is the way, because if you see, right, all your clients these days are stateless, right? You log in from one phone, you log in from browser, you have two phones, you log in from two phones. None of the applications in the um, phone or browser maintain the data. Of course, there are some local caches there, but in general, the source of truth is the server, right? So there should be a consistent and a very reliable way of communication, which can make sure that the data across all your clients and in the server is consistent. So that's a bit concept about the communication part, right? Okay, so moving a bit more towards requirement, right? So requirements are of two main broad category. One is functional requirement and other is a non-functional requirement. So let's take an example of a WhatsApp. Can some or not a WhatsApp. Let's take an example of okay, yeah, WhatsApp only. And can someone tell me what would be a functional requirement and some functional requirement, and what will be some non-functional requirement? Functional requirement, of course, everyone knows. Let's concentrate more on non-functional requirement. Or in fact, let's think of a more simpler way of a URL shortener. Why I'm talking about these things, right? Because this is, of course, very important for learning, but this is very important for interviews also. So, of course, many companies have this system design interviews, right? And in those cases, knowing what is a functional requirement and knowing what is a non-functional requirement and asking those questions to the interviewers is very important. So let's take an even more simpler example of a URL shortener. I think what will be a functional requirement, some functional requirement, and what will be some non-functional requirement. Over to you, class. Anyone?
Yeah, so functional requirement would be it is to reduce the data, the amount of space it takes. Non-functional can be it is more legible, like you can read it better. You can read it better when compared to a URL that is big.
Okay.
Yeah.
Functional is okay. I think non-functional. I don't. We will have to discuss. What do you mean by read it better? Why do you?
So when you have it like a big line, which takes more characters, and when you compare it with just few letters that are there, it is much more preferred to have something which is more
So it's
characters.
the same as that's a functional requirement, right? It's the same as having your URL shortened, right? That's the most important functional requirement, I would say. How would it be non-functional?
Okay.
Right. So
Yeah, yeah.
URL shortener, the main aim to shorten the URL, right? So that's the functional requirement, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. What could be, so yeah, one thing is to shorten the URL. That's a functional requirement. Any more functional requirement as a URL shortener? Can you guys think of?
Non-functional, are there like basic features provided to the application? Can they be defined like that? Easy of access.
Okay.
ECU UI design or something like quick user-friendly design.
That is what you're talking about is user experience, correct? Right? How convenient it is to use, sort of those things, right?
Yeah.
I would say that's a separate angle altogether. Okay, so if I have to give like some example of other functional requirement of a URL shortener, would be some statistics about your shortened URL, right? So URL shortener, if you think, right, it is shortened once, but consumed many times. When will you use a URL shortener if you are tweeting something, right? Because Twitter gives you this 140 character, having the long URL there would be a tough thing, right? So, okay, if I can shorten it and if I have tweeted it, so if the platform, it can give me a statistics like, okay, once you shorten the URL, after that, these many people clicked on this day, this day, this day, on this month. Okay, from which geography your clicks came in, all of these things, that could be some other functional requirement, correct? Now what? Non-functional requirement in this case would be when I am developing a URL shortener for that example, right? What should be the number of users could I expect? So those are some of the questions you will ask for non-functional requirement. Okay, am I launching it in just one geography or multiple countries? How many people should we plan this software to be used by? And also, right, how will that define? And if someone can directly tell you, what is the number of QPS which you are expecting? QPS is queries per second, or TPS, which is transactions per second, right? So these will be some of the non-functional requirement from an engineering perspective. Why it is non-functional? Because functionality still can remain the same, which is shortening the URL. But if I have to just launch this service for 100 people, my perhaps system architecture and design will be different. If I have to launch it for 100 million people, I will require a different system architecture and design. So knowing your functional and non-functional requirement is very important. Did you guys get it? And any questions on this? Right. So similarly for WhatsApp, right? So these are very typical interview questions. And when you talk about interview questions, right? These are some of the questions the interviewer, they will give you functional requirement, and for non-functional requirement, it is an expectation from the person who is giving the interview that you will ask these questions. If you ask these questions, that itself is giving a good impression that, okay, at least you know about when you're doing a system design, you are thinking about these perspective, right? Other thing from a functional requirement would be SLA, right? Once I do a shortened URL, if someone else is using the shortened URL, how much of extra delay would be required to resolve it? Is it one couple of milliseconds, couple of seconds versus couple of 10 seconds, right? That will be some of the non-functional requirement also, which would be important. And that will decide your system design. Correct? Coming to MVP versus advanced requirement, MVP is something called as the most viable product, right? So that's a concept which is very, I would say, towards the recent times, if you see, right, we are all the companies and all the software developments are moving towards agile as a process, right? Before, if you rewind back to say a decade, or might be 1.5 decades ago, the software development used to happen in a very different way. Uh, does anyone know what was the process which was called at that time, where you do design first you do a requirement analysis, then design, then coding, then testing, then deployment, one by one of the whole software? What was that model called?
Is that waterfall model?
Yes, that's correct. So yeah, a waterfall model, right? So if you think of our waterfall model, everything happens in phases for the whole software. What will it mean? If I have to work on a URL shortener, first, say 1 month will be spent for uh, writing the product specs, working on the UI wireframe, all of these things. Second, 2 weeks will be spent for system architecture design. Second, then the other 2 weeks will be spent for system design. Then a month for coding, testing, and then deployment. So by the time the product will be launched with all the features, which will include, okay, URL shortening and statistics, all of them together in 6 months. Correct. But given the today's world where there is such a tough competition within startups, right? Perhaps by the time I launch that after 6 months, there will be someone else who has already launched it, right? So how can you solve such problems? You can break the functionalities into most important functionality, which would go into your first phase. And then what? You will defer all your other requirements for the next phases. And what? That's called as rapid development or agile development, right? What will it mean? Is that take the most important functionality, which is shortening the URL, forget about the feature of statistics. Then what? You write the specs about uh, this thing in 2 weeks, do the coding in 2 weeks, design in 2 weeks, coding and deployment in 2 weeks, which means in 1.5 months you are already deployed your first version of your product, which is having the most important features. And then what? In your next iteration, you keep on adding features. That is the new way of development, right? So that's what is uh, also a very important to know what are the features which will make is that important to be included in your MVP. Cool. Going ahead, right? So what we'll take an example is the example of a Zomato app and go through the different aspects of functional requirement and analysis of how to do that, right? Any questions till now? Since we have covered almost 45 minutes. Cool. So I take silence as no and move forward. So first thing first, now as I discussed, like what are, let us discuss about functional requirement now. So what are the steps involved in a functional requirement? Correct. So first most important part is knowing your product and your customers and finding a fit between them, right? So for example, the thing which I told earlier, like developing an iOS app for my for the for farmers of India itself is a sure to fail because it's a non-product market fit, which means market, which is my customers, and the product, they don't match each other. So it's for most important is that analysis where you go deeper and check the market fit of your product. Second step is more like user identification, which means knowing the stakeholders which will be involved in your product, right? The third is the minimal feature identification, which will which is the same thing which I spoke about, is making the cut between MVP and the most advanced product. And finally is the UI and mock UI or a prototype. So these are the steps which happen before even it comes to engineering. So this is some, of course, there could be some other steps also which I am missing. Like for example, how would you do that product to market fit, right? You can always come up with a basic UI UX front, and there are different companies, or you can there are companies which are do something like user surveys, right? What they will do is like, okay, if you have a base UI for or a base idea of your products, you give that to uh, some cohort of your customers, take some sample, and then ask them to evaluate, okay, what are the features they think should go more, what are the features which they are feeling difficulty in using, and thus take those inputs. So this is a very interesting way of depicting your product to market fit. So the y-axis is the vision for your company, and the x-axis is your customer engagement, right? So these are the four quadrants you can think of. First quadrant is the quadrant where it is called as there is no vision for the company, and even the customers are not using your product, right? So that will be categories of a product where and a companies where it's more like a self deception mode, where you think that okay, you are doing a very great work, but what you are doing is just not good enough for the whole market, and not even good for the investors. That's one thing. This one, right bottom, is where the customers are loving it, but from a vision perspective and from an innovation perspective, you are doing not something new. So what will be the example of such things would be the service based products which are getting developed in India, right? So if you are in a service based company, and if you are working for a customer where the customer is paying you to develop that, in that case, of course, it's very valuable to the customer, very important for the customer, they are using it. But from a vision perspective or from an innovation perspective, your hands are tied up, right? It's up to the customer what they want. And from a scale perspective also, those are the products which will work very good for that sort of a customer cohort. But from a scalability perspective, it's tough to replicate that success with every bigger audiences, right? So in that case, if you see, yeah, revenue would be good, but from a vision perspective, it's on the other side. Then comes this very interesting place where it is this quadrant, which is left top, which is the quadrant of a sexy story. What does this mean? Your vision is very great, very nice vision, but for now, there is no customers or very less customers out from there, right? And this is the place where investors put a lot of money. And final, this is a quadrant where it's a vision is also good and customers are also loving. So this quadrant is the perfect product market fit quadrant. Let's discuss a bit more on this, right? uh, I will open this forum to you guys, where can you guys tell me more about, okay, what are some of the examples which come in your mind in terms of application or companies which fit into first quadrant, second quadrant, third or fourth quadrant? Anyone?
Sir, can you repeat the question?
Any example you can think of a company or an app, and in which quadrant they fall? For example, I will tell you, right? Flipkart or Amazon, they fall in this fourth one. Their vision is also very good and people love them, right? Anyone from this quadrant, which is, uh, do you think what will be uh, left top one, sexy story quadrant? Any examples can you think of?
Hmm. Apps that are related to real estate and things like that.
Is it third quadrant? Sexy
Uh,
story.
uh, yes, yes, sir. No, actually, it's third quadrant. Yes, yes.
Which one? Sexy story, self-deception, revenue-centric.
Um, it's actually first one, sexy story.
And why do you think so?
So the thing is with real estate, it might be volatile and the vision might be good, but it's very risky for the customers.
Uh, no, you are not getting the point. The point is about, it's not about risk or not risk. Are even customer using it? Are their customer loving it? Correct. So for example, real estate app like say Common Floor or say for example Magic Bricks, people use it, right? They use it and they use it very much in metros, right? To sell their apartment, to take up rent, right? So they are still in a product to market fit sort of, I would say.
Okay. So mm,
Okay, so let me give an example from my side, which I think. Oh yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So I think it might be there might be a probability for market related apps that are so the output not output I'm still not exactly sure. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So let me give you an example. The sexy story one, something like self-driving cars, right? Autonomous vehicles, correct? The vision is great, correct? But there is still no market and no customers for it, right? And since the vision is such a great, they get lot of investment, correct? Think about Elon Musk's SpaceX, or for that matter, Amazon also has this space program, right? Those are some of the part which is a very good vision, but no customers yet. Got my point?
Yes, sir.
Any more examples now? Can you think of anyone in this quadrant?
So I can think of any environment an apps that are there's a particular app that is used to keep account of the amount of water that is present. It has a good vision, but the number of customers who are aware of it is less.
Okay. Yep. Uh, got it. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Fine. Then let's move to the next session. Actually, just hold on. This is the time for a poll. So, okay. Somehow I don't see that option. Cool. So, moving ahead with the Zomato app, which we are talking about, right? So, what are our uh, stakeholders? Who are the users of my Zomato app, right? First comes the customers who are ordering the food. They will be one of the stakeholders. The other stakeholders will be restaurants who are going and preparing the food for you. Third would be the delivery executives who are delivering you the food. And fourth would be an internal admin console where an Zomato employee will go ahead and moderate all of the four stakeholders. Cool. So, one quick question. What do you think about the delivery executives? Are they uh, employees of Zomato?
Yes.
They are employees of
They are,
Zomato?
I think they are taken as a contract basis.
Uh-huh. Okay. What more? Anyone more with more ideas about this? Uh-huh. Come on, tell me. Anyone? So one person said it's Zomato. Are the people they are employees? Other one is telling non-employees. What do you guys, other people think?
I believe they are not employees. They are like on contract basis that if they fulfill that order, they'll be partly paid in that manner. So they're like contract employees.
Okay. So yeah, that's true. So Zomato delivery executives are not employees of Zomato. They are like Ola or Uber driver. So of course, when they onboard, their background verification and all of account creation is done. But after that, it's up to them. And what's the whole deal is that you can work whenever you are free. What you need to do is like just they will have their own application for Zomato for delivery people, where you when you log into that, what you get is an option to deliver. So based upon the number of deliveries which you have done, you will get paid. So it's similar to an Ola and Uber, where the drivers, they are working as their wish, right? If I don't want to work on as a driver. If I want not to work on weekends, I can choose not to work on weekends. So that's how it is. So yeah, and that's a very big misconception which people think like Zomato delivery people are their employees. That's why I wanted to just clearly ask that. Cool. So that's why now what? Let's go deeper from a customer's perspective, right? So what will a customer require, right? So these are some of the exercise which you will need to do when you are doing a requirement analysis. And what would you need to do is that sit in their shoes and think that okay, what are some of their requirements which my customer will ask, right? So first thing first, it would be to everyone will have their app, right? So first would be like account creation and authentication, right? So where you log in with your email ID and password, uh, and then second would be a search. So, uh, so what are some of the things which you think on a Zomato? Search itself is a big functionality. What are some of the parameters do you think will be important for someone to search on for Zomato?
Yeah, so the important parameter can be the accuracy of the data that we receive, like say the particular restaurant or the delivery point in which we choose.
Okay. So you are saying location is one of the search parameter, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. What more?
Discounts and offers.
Okay. That's an interesting thing. Second, one more. There are many more.
Delivery time of the product, ETA.
Okay. Is okay. Do you really have that search on Zomato? Do we have such a functionality where you can search? Okay.
I think it is displayed in the beginning when we place the order. The ETA is available. Then, if we need a quicker arrival of the product, we can maybe call the customer executive. It's not a direct feature, but maybe that's a feature
Okay.
which
So
I use
what
most
I'm
of the
asking
time.
is about a direct feature in search, which you can do a search now.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, direct feature in the search. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Search for a particular food which I want to eat. So if I want especially pav bhaji, I'll search for pav bhaji. So it'll give me this results for pav bhaji near me.
Exactly. That's correct. What more? There are some most important 2-3 points which no one is telling till now.
Restaurants near me.
Yeah, that was covered as a location.
Okay.
Restaurant name. There are many a times where you directly go and you know where you have to buy and what you have to buy, right? You go and search directly by restaurant name also, right?
Yeah.
Also by cuisine, right? I want to eat Italian today, or I want to eat Chinese today, but I don't know which restaurant to pick. That's also there, right?
Yeah.
Right. So these are some of the. So now what? So when it comes to requirement analysis, now we have seen so many requirements, correct? So search itself is a big beast in it altogether, right? Now within that search, you will need to go deeper and then find, okay, what are the parameters you want search on? And then what you will have to do a stack ranking between them, because I remember we told about MVP versus non-MVP, right? So perhaps in your first cut, you would not go with discount based, right? But restaurant name, cuisine are most important, which you will need to have it in your first cut, right? What are some of the other, is there something still do you think which is not that important for going in the main product but can go into the next versions?
I think pricing.
Yeah, correct. That's one thing. So if you see, Zomato has a pricing indicator for all restaurants, pricey, too pricey, medium, or something like that. Those can be used, or price ranges can be used. That's one thing. Uh, cool. Next part, reviews and rating. Right now, this is a very another interesting part of this, right? So think about reviews and rating. Do you think it is important for going in the MVP, or do you think it can make it to the next cut?
It is important.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. Why? Because when you talk about food, you will want to hear what has been the restaurant's reviews, feedback about their hygiene, food quality, taste, all of these things, right? But this is a very interesting thing, right? Now, if you think of some other apps, for example, right? Let's go to Amazon for that matter, right? Do you think reviews and ratings are important? The answer would be yes, right? Anything which you buy on e-commerce, you would also want to know how the product has behaved and all of this thing, right? But there are a couple of examples of product where reviews and rating are not that important. What can you guys think of an example where, of course, it is important to be part of later versions of my product, but for MVP, perhaps I will not even think about it. Can you guys think of something like that?
Medicine
For
selling
branded.
apps.
Right, medicine selling app, right? That's a very interesting example, right? I wouldn't, perhaps for medicine sharing, reviews and rating is not required in later on also, right? You have to buy this medicine, you have to buy this medicine. It doesn't care if what people tell about this medicine, for, right? Some more examples. There are a couple of them. Can you guys think of?
Jewelry, gold or diamond.
Okay, yeah, that's also interesting. But
Flight
on the
booking app.
front, there could be one thing on the jewelry front about purity and all, which people will want to know the reviews about. But yeah, as you said, right, not that important. If it is a branded website like Tanishq, if they are doing a home delivery for your jewelry, if you are building such a case, right? So people will trust Tanishq more by the brand name.
Yes.
Not sure, but mobile recharge or TV recharge apps.
Correct. That's also, yeah. Perhaps, yeah, that's the truth thing, right? You don't see reviews and rating on Google Pay or Phone Pay, right?
Yeah.
Or for that matter, Paytm itself, the core Paytm, not the Paytm mall.
Yeah.   Yeah.
What more? Perhaps grocery apps, right? Although this feature is there in Big Basket, but how many have you rated after taking a delivery of a vegetable that okay, how it is, right?
Uh, y- yeah, but my doubt is like when it's for grocery apps, won't the price difference and also the quality of the vegetables and everything that can be used as a rating system, right?
But the thing is that quality of the vegetable keeps on changing on everyday basis, right?
Correct, correct.
So if I am ordering a tomato on Big Basket, either I will have a perception, okay, Big Basket is good, or I will have a perception that it won't be exactly for tomato, right? It will be there for everything over there. Na? कि अच्छा, I will prefer a local vendor over Big Basket, or I will prefer a Big Basket over local vendor. It won't be that, okay, for tomato, I will prefer a local vendor, but for onions, I will prefer Big Basket, right?
Correct, correct.
And also think about apps like Uber and Ola, at least for India market. They have ratings and reviews of drivers, right? But ratings and reviews of drivers hardly matter in India, right? You know that all of them are will call you and ask sir kahan jana hai, and then they will cancel, correct? So uh, all you care is are you coming or not, right? So reviews and rating doesn't matter in those cases, for at least from my perspective, and at least in the first cut, correct? So based upon your use case, all of this will change. So that's what is the most important part about requirement analysis, that there is not one ring to rule them all, sort of a concept. It will have to be different for all the problem statement you're talking about. Cool. Moving to the next item, which is the menu and ambience, right? Of course, menu is required when you order a food. Why have I mentioned ambience for a Zomato app? Can anyone tell me?
Kitchen ambience.
Okay. What more? How many of you guys remember that what was Zomato app 3 years before now?
It was just for the restaurants to dive in restaurants.
Yeah, it was for dine-in, right? So
Yeah.
ambience does matter in that case, correct?
Yes.
So of course, ambience perhaps do not matter that much from a Swiggy perspective because it's delivery only. But one of the still a good use case of Zomato is to check, okay, where should you go out for your date or for your anniversary, right? And in that case, you will want to choose a beautiful place, right? So the ambience would matter. So that's why this ambience is there. It's not for food delivery. And even for kitchen ambience, right? You will not trust the photos and all of this. Perhaps a hygienic meter, and that also I don't know. How much can you trust on that, right? So, from my perspective, uh, ambience makes more sense for dining. For orders and all, it's all about okay. If nowadays after Corona they have started this hygienic meter, I see that on Zomato. But yeah, how much to trust that also is not there. So when you're ordering from outside, you will perhaps only trust based on the brand names, and that also you don't know how much can you trust. Okay, the other functionalities are of course order online, payments, and tracking of order, right? Where you see that map, okay, where your delivery executives are there, right? So in this also, right, track order itself is a very big problem statement, right? Think about building an MVP. Perhaps you will not want to have that live map in your MVP. What would be a track order in case of MVP? Just sending an SMS that okay, your ad order has been received, okay, or an app notification, okay, your order your executive has been assigned, your order has been picked, it's on your way. Though that should be good for an MVP, right? But when you move in the next versions, you would like to give that live map where you see that person with a bike, right? So these are some of the things which you have to do as an exercise when you go ahead and think of requirement analysis. So if you see, right, all of these line items itself requires more investigation and more analysis to be done. And who does such analysis? For that, we have product analysts who will be usually working with the product manager, and then they will come up with the features. Okay, this feature can go in MVP, this feature can go not, this is the most important feature or something like that. Now moving to the next part, right? And do you guys think something which we are missing here, which should be part of our, at least for MVP, for a customer's perspective? Okay, moving to the next part, which will be what are the next stakeholder in your case, right? This would be the restaurants. What will they want? They also will have their own app, correct? And then they will go for the app will require a login authentication. The next would be for them place for them to add, edit information about their restaurant, photos, contact number, all of these part. Third part would be the part where they mark a restaurant online or offline based upon restaurant timings or also at an item level. For say example, today due to some reason you couldn't cook biryani or your biryani is over. From a restaurant perspective, they should have this option to make it unavailable so that no more new orders is placed from Zomato, right? And also from their perspective, they need to track the orders for the purpose of, so that they can say, for example, if a new order has been placed for a restaurant, the delivery executives might be somewhere far. While they are coming, they can prepare the food and keep it ready and packed, so that when the delivery executive comes, they can just pick it up and then go. So those are the ways they will require order tracking. And also once someone has picked it for delivery, after that, has it reached the customer or not? That would be important for them. One more feature, of course, the most important is the receiving the payments. All of this will be there. What more do you think, which would be a good addition in terms of feature set? There is one important thing which came in one of the other sessions which I was which I was conducting, and that I have not mentioned here. That's what I'm hinting towards.
Uh, we can categorize like division wise the food items.
Well, okay, yeah, that's true, and I think that would be part of this one, where you add and edit information, right? So when you adding information, that will be also, yeah, adding and editing your menu. I think that's what I am implying towards.
And we can have something feedback system, a better feedback system, depending upon various customers' needs. Like some customers won't use paper bags; they would prefer an eco-friendly packaging. And depending upon that, the various feedbacks, the changes also can be made for making this business successful.
Correct. So yeah. So yeah, what you are hinting towards, I would expand that more. So more about reporting, sort of, right? So think of this, right? Of course, reports will have different dimensions. The most important dimension of that reporting would be towards the payments, right? So something like, okay, in last week, how much money did I a restaurant make? How many orders went in? Last month, how many of this went? More about taxation per purpose, right? Okay, GST and all of those things can come in there. And also, right, there could be a different angle of reporting, which will be to for the restaurants to optimize. For example, right, if you think, if I am a restaurant which sells a lot of item, but I see on Friday evenings and Saturday evenings, the orders for my biryanis go up quite high, and that in last 1 month I have seen all my weekends my biryani itself got over, and I had to mark my item of biryani as unavailable. And if you think about biryani, it is not something like you will cook it instantaneously once an order has come. What you do, usually you cook it in a big pot, and then based upon the you cook it, okay, 100 plates or something like that, and then you process it, right? How can this information help the restaurants? Okay, they will see that, okay, for rest of the day I am cooking the same biryani, and some of them are getting wasted, right? So from a restaurant's perspective, they can, if they get such reports, right, it can help them optimize, like, okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and other weekdays, perhaps I should cook only say 80 plates, and on weekends, instead of 100 plates which I was doing all the 7 days, I can perhaps cook 150 plates for weekends, right? So these are some of the other features which you can think about, which makes a very good value addition from a customer's perspective, right? Anything more you guys think which we can add from a restaurant as a use case? Okay, next, moving on to delivery executives, right? Again, comes the same thing, authentication, right? So they will have an app where they will authenticate. Second, the most important part for them, going offline or online, right? Based upon their availability and their mood to work, right? They can go online or they can go offline. Third would be getting pickup and drop details. So what would that mean? Once I am online, based upon my current location, I should get a pickup request for some customer whose restaurant is close to me, right? So that I can just go and pick it and then go and deliver them, right? So that would be another requirement from a delivery perspective. Building on top of that, I can even give them this navigation functionality, right? So okay, just not the location, I have to go and pick this from this point in the map and then deliver it to this point following this route. So that's a very good point from the executive perspective, right? And finally, one very specific use case, which is true for Indian market, is cash collection, right? That sense, it's a, if you think, it's a very good innovation which Flipkart did in India in 2015, right? Before this, COD functionality, right, was never there in anywhere in the world. Why? For example, like, if you see, first thing first, the e-commerce or food delivery penetration itself was very less before that, and the major players like Amazon's in the US, everyone uses credit card there, so the cash collection point of view was very less. But for India, when Flipkart, they started expanding to tier 2 cities, right? There where they found the need of COD as an option. So these are some of the, so this is a very good example of a product to market fit and doing enough research on your customers to know, okay, this is a pain point and how can you solve about this, right? Can you guys think of some other examples of such a good innovative thing? So any more examples of any app, not just Zomato or anything? Which you guys love as a feature and you thought, okay, wow, I love this thing. Come on, you, of course there would be something, right? Share your examples. Okay, let me talk about one more example. Have you guys used this try and return feature of Myntra? Anyone?
Yes.
Right? How do you
Yes.
think? Isn't that innovative? So yeah, for the rest of the class who hasn't used it, Myntra has this feature where you can order 2-3 t-shirts, 2-3 clothes or clothes of different sizes. When the delivery people executive comes, of course, this was there before pre-COVID times. I'm not sure if it is even allowed during the COVID times. So the delivery guy will come with all the 3-4 options, and then what they will do, they will give you all the clothes. You try it at your home. You keep whatever you want. You can return the rest. So what are the problems which this feature is solving? Can you tell me? And why did this Myntra launch in the first place?
Okay, some of the problems are customers who are usually going out for shopping, they prefer that exact size and fit, which won't be possible when it's booked online because you're not wearing it. So, and also it is the whole point of online shopping is to move less, that is like stay at home and get everything. And so they're achieving both goals in that one particular process.
Anyone would like to add one more point? There is one very other interesting point.
It was
Yeah, that's a
because
very good point from a customer's perspective. There is a very big benefit out of feature, very big feature, very big benefit Myntra is getting out of doing this.
They're getting more profit in a way because you're choosing not just one item, you're choosing around four. Out of the four, if you pick them, you're picking around two, say
Mhm.
maybe two. But when you do it online, you're just picking only one.
Okay. Anyone with some other views?
Mitra is attracting the peoples who are not sure with the online shopping and very happy to shop or go for a live shopping so that they can try, so they can attract those customers to themselves also.
That's yeah, that's I think that's a point which we have discussed. But okay, so let me tell you one thing. One thing, where did this thing whole idea came, right? So of course, from a customer's perspective, this is a very good user experience.
Also,
But as a
also,
customer, yeah, go ahead, yeah, go ahead.
also sometimes after ordering, we see that it is not fitting correctly, and then we apply for return. So that is
Exactly.
also a
Yeah.
loss.
Yeah. So yeah, that where I was coming for. So from a customer perspective, you can achieve this again by doing this. Why you order 4 5 and you know that okay, you will keep one and then the rest three you will return. But what was the problem with Myntra was that they were, for every return you do, right, they have to spend money, right? That delivery executive is again coming to your home. He is taking back the item, right? So that's the cost for them, right? So, and in a typical e-commerce, if you see, Myntra or a fashion is the industry which has a lot of returns, much more higher than other industry. So they wanted to solve this problem, and this feature is helping you in that way also. Why? The delivery executive is already here. He gives you 15 minutes. You try this out, and then you return the next three. And what is helping? At least it's saving three other visits of the delivery executive, right? So the overall cost for Myntra for delivery and returns has gone down. Think about this. And when also, so from Mintra's perspective, this is the benefit. So yeah, these are some of the very interesting use cases which I wanted to discuss from a requirement identification perspective, where you are killing two birds with one stone, right? One is your customer experience is improving and you are reducing your own cost. Cool. So third final player of your comes when you think about the admin console, right? In this, what again you have cut authentication, content moderation, right? So all the reviews and reviews and photos which the restaurants will add, all of this goes through a moderation team so that they make sure it's genuine and the reviews are not offensive. So those would be there. Coupons and discounts. We'll come back to this. Other things, what payment processing, right? And control settings like, okay, should this new restaurant be onboarded? Should this be blacklisted? Should this user be blacklisted? Should this delivery executive will be blacklisted, removed from the system? Those sort of controls and settings. Coming to coupons and discounts, do you think it is important for an MVP? If yes, why? If no, why?
Nowadays, it is important for the MVP because usually people will compare the price on the two different applications to buy something.
Uh-huh. What more? Any more views on this? So yeah, someone told me this will also
For
depend
promotion
upon
also, sometimes
what?
for promotion
Uh-huh.
of a certain restaurant.
Yeah, so what I'm telling, is it important? Of course, this feature is important, but should you uh, make this feature in the first version of the product which you launch? Okay, so yeah, some other ideas which came in from one of the sessions which I was taking. This should depend upon the industry and your competitor scenario. If you think that you have a lot of competition already on this front, perhaps you should have this feature. If there is not much of competition, you can go ahead and then remove this feature. But yeah, to that, one thing which interesting was my view on this was that of user acquisition. So if you think about user acquisition, what is the best way to acquire a new user when you are new and when you have launched your app? Come on, you guys have used so many
Offering
new apps.
discounts and all.
Yeah, but how do you come to know that there is this new app?
Advertisement.
Before advertisement, also there is one more thing, more important and more trustworthy. Referrals, right? Your friends refer you, right? That's the most one big thing about user acquisition, referrals, right? And usually in system designs, referrals are also designed as a coupon, not as a discount, but as a coupon, because when you refer someone, you get a coupon or something like that, right? So yeah, in such scenarios, for any new app, to get more referrals, you will need to, for getting new users, you will need to implement referral feature, and that referral feature can only come via this coupons feature which you have to build. So yeah, it's that important to be in MVP. Some of the other features which can go beyond MVP would be something like, okay, customer support, like option 2 chat and all, right? Zomato Gold, advertising. There is also a new feature of table booking which is coming now, and things like a wallet and all of those things can also come up as a feature which will go beyond MVP. Non-functional requirement for your, in this case, Zomato, would be how much of traffic are we expecting from a server perspective, right? Localization, should it be only in India, or Zomato for that example is also works in UAE, right? So should you do localization for UAE market where it is in Arabic? That's important as a perhaps it's a debatable thing that can come as a functional requirement also. But why it is also coming as a non-functional is that based upon the number of countries, the number of users will increase, and that in turn will increase the amount of traffic on your website, right? Going deeper, right? So what would be the next step, right? So this is the analysis phase which has been done, right? The next phase where we like, okay, where you will work on the UI UX design. That will be where the designer, product designers comes into play. And then will be the product manager's job, where they write the product requirement document, which is also called as a PRD. Now what it comes to engineering, where they will do this system architecture design. Then high level design, low level design, coding, testing, deployment. These things you guys, I am sure you might be aware of. So as an engineer, right, you are perhaps involved from this low level design, coding and testing, right? So now think of this. Before it is even coming to this, any product comes into this, so much of thought and so much of work has already gone in. And who are the stakeholders in those cases? First thing, product analysts, which I talked about, right? All of the product market fit analysis, these are done by the analyst. Then comes the product manager who writes the PRD, product designers who works on the UI, UX, wireframe, architects who will do the system design, And then as a developer, either you will be a UI UX developer who will be working on the front end, or a backend developer, or an app developer who will work on either on Android or iOS app, or a full stack developer. And comes then the quality analyst who will be the responsible for testing your code, and then finally the DevOps. Correct. Coming back to this slide. So I know I am over time, so I will just rushing a bit. Please stop me if you guys have any questions. There is, can someone tell me what is the difference between a system architecture design and a high level design?
System architectural design is nothing but it's a strategically placed step-by-step process. High-level design is more technical related.
Okay. What more? So from a Zomato perspective, what will you decide in a system architecture design?
That shows the structure, the entire structure of the organization, the working, what is the main purpose, and high-level design for Zomato will be with respect to the coding, that is the back-end process that is going on.
I have a different view actually. Thank you for sharing your view. Although, yeah, system architecture design. So, okay, so what I intended to mean with system architecture design was on the technical front itself, right? So, from a Zomato app perspective, if you see, right, so all the decisions which we talked about, like the overall architecture, where there will be a client, where there will be, should there be a HTTP protocol or HTTPS protocol, and okay, the server, where are you deploying it? Is it on AWS or Azure, right? So all of those sort of architecture design will be taken care in the system architecture design. When you think about, say for example, AWS, now what? Within AWS also there is a concept of three concepts where you can use AWS, right? One is called as IaaS, which is infrastructure as a service. Second is PaaS, platform as a service. Third is SaaS, which is software as a service. For let's take the example of a MySQL as a database. How does these three things work? So in AWS, where infrastructure as a service, what you will do is you will just take a blank vanilla Linux box. Okay. And in that, what you will deploy MySQL yourself, MySQL, install MySQL yourself, and then use it in your application. So that will be an example of IaaS. The second one would be where it is a platform as a service. What you will take a MySQL box directly from from AWS. They will give you a database installed, and you will just use the connections to make it work. Third would be software as a service. Think of AWS has its own database, which has multi-tenant and all of those things. If you use that, that will become like an example of software as a service. What are the differences between them? For the first example, if you are thinking, right, where you are installing it yourself, perhaps you will need a person who has expertise of MySQL to be a database admin, right, who can do all of these things for you. But if you're a small company, perhaps you will not have this thing, right? So you can move to PaaS or SaaS. So these are some of those sort of decisions which you will need in your system architecture design. High level design would be more about, now what, system architecture level design happens at a company level, as you correctly said. And who will be involved there? There will be different architects of different team who will get involved and make the system architecture design. But when it comes to high level design, then what? The whole technology team can be broken into different teams. One team talks about, okay, I am the customer part, I am the delivery part, I am the marketplace part, matching part, all of these things, and they will bring up APIs and software internally. Like for delivery, they will have a delivery API. Marketplace will have their own API, right? So high level design will be based upon those at those level, API level and all of those level. And then low level design will be even have to go up to one more level deeper, where it will talk about classes and other methods in that interfaces. So that's the difference between all these three. Cool. So this marks the end of our session. So this is a typical system, basic system design, right? Which we talk about in terms of a Zomato app. Right, you any questions? Any questions? If because this is the end of the session. I was thinking to launch a poll, but I don't get that option now. And the moderator from Upgrad, he is not present here. So usually there is an option to launch this poll. Cool then. If you guys don't have any more questions, then we can leave. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ritwik.
Thank you. Hope you guys enjoyed this session.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.